congratulations, you got the job. That mental struggle you had about whether or not to step up on that corporate ladder has finally paid off. That terrifying meeting you had with the regional sales director of the new company and their HR manager, little did they know you were still in your pyjama bottoms. It's happened and it was a success. And you can now reap the benefits of that new job. Gym membership, a fancy pension scheme, golf with the boss every Friday, and of course, that BMW 320d M Sport that you've been speccing whilst having your camera switched off on Zoom meetings is finally yours. Or is it? You see, the new company wants to put across a sustainable image and they want you to drive an electric car. But is that going to work for you? I mean, after all, a life on the open road isn't much going to be a life on the open road if you have to stop every now and again and charge it up. I mean, that gym membership is going to come in handy with all the Greggs Cornish pasties that no doubt you'll be munching through as you wait for a car to charge. Have no fear, we're here to help at AutoEV in our twin test this week, which features a first for us, a car with an engine. Welcome to your new job and welcome to AutoEV. Now, of course, before we get started, it is, of course, that time where I ask you to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and press the little bell button down below so you receive notification of when the next video goes live. And please also remember, keep those comments flooding in, please. Now, company cars. The sort of middle management executive saloon, well, we wanted to compare an electric car with a piston engine car and show you the differences and the benefits and also the downsides to running an electric car as a company car. But that mid-ground, as I say, executive sports saloon, it's not quite as easy as you might think, because there's no point in comparing, say, a Tesla Model 3 to a BMW 3 Series, because we're not really comparing like for like there. We're going to judge on what the two cars are essentially like on their own merits. No, we wanted to get something that was very, very close in terms of the same car in a different powertrain, but at that level, that's not easy. So we've had to have a little bit of a compromise. But these two are, we think, the closest that you can possibly get. From Volvo, we have the S60. Now, this is a B5 model, and this is a 2-litre 4-cylinder engine with a mild hybrid. It can't drive on electric power on its own. It has to use the engine, but I'll get onto that a little bit later. And its electric equivalent from sister brand Polestar. Now, we've featured the Polestar 2 before, but that was the full-blooded 400 brake horsepower dual motor car. This here is the sort of equivalent car to the Volvo. It's a single motor with the long range battery, and it produces about 228 horsepower to the Volvo's 250. List price is about the same as well, but again, we'll get on to that. Now, what I have to make very, very clear is, as I say, this isn't going to be the traditional twin test that we normally do, although there will be some elements of it, because I'm sure if you are interested in the Volvo, you might not want to know what it's about. And after all, we're a motoring channel, so we will tell you. But when it comes to pricing, what we're going to be discussing quite a bit is taxation and company car tax. Now, here's a little bit of a disclaimer. Please, 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 please understand we are not tax advisors. We are a motoring channel. If you want to know what applies to you and what's applicable to your job and your role, then can you please talk to your company payroll department or your own personal accountant. Don't rely on it from us. But on saying that, I have to give a big thank you to my personal friend Paul Scheuer from Rock Accountants for his help with this week's feature. So, let's crack on, shall we? So let's start with the Volvo S60. In my humblest of opinions, one of the sharpest looking small compact executive saloons you can buy today. I mean, look at it. It makes a BMW 3 Series and Audi A4 look fussy, and a Mercedes-Benz C-Class look a little, well, bland, if you like. In fact, the only car I think this really stands comparison with is the Alfa Romeo Giulia. And when was the last time you could compare an Alfa Romeo with a Volvo? I mean, just look at it, it's a sensation. Volvo are absolutely on top of their styling game at the moment, and it's a shame that they don't sell more S60s, because I really do think this cuts an absolute dash. I mean, look at the front. You've got your signature Thor headlamps, of course. You've got this lovely concave grille here, the big Volvo badge emblazoned on the front, which also houses the little front camera for the radar. Nice sharp creases, not too much, it's not too fussy, it's just about right. And then of course around the sides you've got these nice creases around the wheel arches, these lovely big standalone mirrors, and this line here which I really like, it's sort of these curved door panels, and then out of which rises this really sharp crease that just takes off to the back and just finishes the whole car really nicely. As I say, it's not fussy like a 3 Series on A4, it's a handsome car. It sits well on these 19-inch alloy wheels too, but obviously bear in mind they are not available on every model in the car. Say this is an inscription trim that we've got here today. And as you get round the back, you've got these distinctive C-shaped lights on either side. That's a bit of a styling signature of Volvo now, and a really clean and unfussy back. You know, you've got the twin exhausts, which out there, something that viewers of this channel probably don't see that often on cars, to be honest with you. The only thing I will say is that there's a bit much badging going on for me. I mean, it's been a bit of a Volvo thing, putting the big kind of name right across the back, and I'm not so sure I really like it. I don't know whether it needs it or not, but otherwise it's a really handsome looking car. Now, as I say, we've seen the Polestar 2 on the channel before, but it's always worth just revisiting its styling. It's clearly related to the Volvo, whilst portraying a completely different sort of style. Traditional 3-box saloon style of it, but it is actually a hatchback. We'll see that a little bit later. You've got the same kind of Thor hammer style headlights at the front here as the Volvo has, but a different sort of grille treatment. Polestar's kind of blocked grid, if you like. Look there. And you've got these two, I love this badge, they're kind of double chevrons that come together, and they're always body colour, which brings me on to this. I love this sort of pewter silver colour of this car. I think it looks absolutely fantastic. It looks really classy. And then of course you've got your blacked out windscreen pillars that give that kind of visor graphic around the car, and then back at the front you've got your kind of grills down here. As I say, it cuts a crisp, clean line. It's that Scandi styling that's just very clean, very minimalist, yet still looking really, really handsome. Take note, Tesla. But it's when you get around the side of it, you start to realise that it does sit that little bit higher. It's not an SUV, it's not a crossover, it just has that slightly raised kind of ride height, which I think looks, well, really quite nice actually. Getting quite bored with kind of low down saloons, and of course getting in and out of the car makes it nice and easy, especially if you're of a certain age now. Again, this lovely crisp line that goes on here. The only thing I don't really like is where this bonnet comes round here, it meets a piece of black trim, and it looks, you've got that little, but I'm starting to notice that on a lot of cars at the moment. Not sure why. Again, standout mirrors that kind of come away from the body itself. No badging on the Polestar apart from the Polestar star at the front and back. Instead you get this little kind of sticker down here that tells you which one that you have. Now also as well, the single motor car comes on 19-inch wheels, but this car's been optioned with the 20-inch wheels, but you can't get the performance pack that you did on the dual motor car, but we'll come on to options later. Otherwise the styling is, well, it's exactly as we've expected from, you know, the Scandinavians. Again, round the side, very minimalist. You've got this sort of like concave panel, sort of concave shape at the bottom of the doors that come along. Everything's really crisp and clean and neat, and the lines are very dynamic and sharp. Yeah, this is a good looking car. But at the rear, you get this wonderful light graphic. I absolutely love this. It's one of the most distinctive rear ends on an electric car you can imagine. And of course, unlike the Volvo, there isn't a plethora, a smattering if you will, of badges. Just the big Polestar logo there. Clean, crisp, minimalist, nice. Now, in terms of practicality, what do we have? Because after all, you're going to need enough space for all those photocopy paper samples that you have. Well, believe it or not, it's the Volvo that has the bigger boot at 427 litres as opposed to 405 for the Polestar. However, the Polestar counters by being a hatchback with a 60-40 split rear seat, which will extend it up to 1095 litres. That doesn't load through on the Volvo, but if argument is to say if you need a practical Volvo, then you'd buy a V60 estate. Now, is there enough for all your suitcases, that all-important business trip away with the boss? Well, let's try. We've got one large suitcase, one medium suitcase, one carry-on in there, and another one there. And there's still enough space for for your briefcase, if not your golf sticks. And of course the hinges are on the outside, so it closes easily. Let's try them in the Polestar. So here's the Polestar. So there's a large bag. Put a medium one there. Sorry, a travel one there, a medium one down that side, and another one just on the top there. And that's before we get to the Polestar's party piece. Because as well as having cable storage underneath the boot floor, you've also got more up front. Now rear seat space is broadly similar, because obviously bear in mind you're going to have to take your colleagues with you at some point. It's also going to have to double up as a family car for you too. So the driving seat is set up for myself. This is the Volvo, and driving seat set for myself at 5'7", 5'8", and in the rear, well, you can see bags in the room here, and I've got good headroom even with this panoramic roof fitted into the panoramic sunroof fitted into the Volvo as well. And it doesn't feel too enclosed in here. I mean, it's black leather inside this particular car, but there's enough window space. It lets some light in. I've got a charging port back here with two USB-C sockets. This car is also equipped with 4-zone climate control and the outer heated rear seats. The ISOFIX points are nice and easy to get to as well, should you wish to put your child seat in. I've got my daughter's child seat in the back of the Polestar. But of course, internal combustion car, you've got this raised centre console. But don't think the Polestar doesn't have that, and I'll show you that in a second. Otherwise, what else have we got? Well, we've got a nice comfortable fold down armrest with some flip out cup holders and a little bit of storage in there for my daughter's notepads and crayons and such like. But it's a very comfortable rear in the Volvo, I have to say. But say, let's check out the Polestar. Now, one benefit the Polestar has of that slightly better ride height, raised ride height, is it's a little bit easier to get in and out of. And you also sit a little bit higher in the Polestar in terms of where the rear seat is. It's like stadium seating, so you get a nice view forward. Now, I will say, the headroom is a lot less in the Polestar. As I say, I've been driving the car, so it's set up for me, 5'7", 5'8", and with this big glass roof, yeah, it could be quite tight if you were sort of like 6 foot or so. But here's what I'm talking about. You've got this centre console. Now that might confuse you because it's an electric car, but bear in mind this is based on Volvo's CMA platform that also underpins the little XC40 crossover. So that's why that's there. It's inbuilt into the chassis, which is a little bit disappointing, I have to say. Certainly if you obviously had a third rear passenger in the back here. The same, I've got 2 USB-C port chargers there. I've got outer heated rear seats in this car with the options that it's got fitted. But the actual ambience back here is very, very similar to the Volvo in the sense that there's a lot of light comes into the car, but in fact slightly more so because this isn't an opening panoramic roof, it's just a glass roof, so there's a lot more light comes into the car than is in the Volvo. The Volvo's one kind of finishes halfway along because it will open. But in terms of leg room, in terms of foot room, in terms of shoulder room and everything else, it's absolutely fine. Just a little bit disappointing on the head space and that console. See, my daughter's seat's fitted in here, so it's got the ISOFIX points on either side. It's also got, like the Volvo, it's got one on the passenger seat in the front. So if you're carrying 3 children in seats, both of these cars tick that box for you. But in terms of overall space, you have to say that the Volvo's a bit better because of headroom, but there's a nicer seating in the back of the Polestar because I see you've got a better view forward. So it's a nice even draw if we were going to compare the two. Now, a little bit like the exteriors, the interiors are noticeably related while still having their own distinctive style. And the first thing that you do notice with regards to them both is their portrait infotainment screens. Now, it's a little bit smaller than it is in the Volvo. I mean, it's not quite as dominating as it is in the Polestar. And what I really love about it is you get in the car and it's sort of like everything sort of comes to life. Now, both use Google, but the Polestar uses it as its full operating system, whereas in the Volvo, you don't have that. It's still here, you still have Google in here, but it's more so with things like, it's not available for your navigation, for instance. You've got to activate your Android Auto or Apple CarPlay, which is standard in the Volvo. You don't get at all in the Polestar. But if you start the car, which is a lovely way, you get in and it's like it's in position 1, if you like, on an ignition. And then you've got this lovely sort of like silver knurled knob here that you just put your foot on the brake and twist clockwise, and the car starts, and then everything kind of springs to life. And it's lovely. It's just a really nice way to start the car. And there's this lovely kind of minimalist sort of look to the car, like there is on the outside. You've got option on this car, wireless charging, but you've still got the 12-volt socket in there. We've got a couple of cup holders here, reasonably deep bin in there. Here we've got a drive mode toggle, which I'll go through in a second, when we're driving it, and also the electronic park brake and your stop-start system. But as I say, it's this screen that's really quite interesting, because you basically have 3 sort of areas of it where you've got all these little tiles where you just pick and choose what you want. So obviously you can go into your Google for a local search. So the car is a Wi-Fi'd up, if you like, and it comes with data in it. Tune-in radios, Spotify, you can log into your own Spotify account from the car. Or as I say, you can go into Android Auto or Apple CarPlay, depending obviously what you have. Then there's the main screen, the big screen that comes up. Everything's touch screen, it's nice and easy to use. You get a big navigation system, easy to connect up for Bluetooth. You've got a simple click home button that comes up. Touch sensitive controls in terms of your heating and ventilation, so you just obviously scroll up or down depending obviously on what you want. You've also got heated seats and ventilated seats. They're optional, but they're all fitted to this car, and they're controlled through the touchscreen as well. Yeah, it's all nice and dead simple and easy to use. In front of you as a driver, very, very clear instrumentation. So digital instrumentation, rev counter on the right, speedo on the left, with also your digital readout in the center, and then your information graphic in the middle of the car. Now, depending obviously on what you want to see, will also depend what's shown there. For instance, if you're using your navigation, you can have it with a map here, or if you'd rather just have the map here and then see your media on there, you can configure it as you see fit. Really simple to use, nice, clear, which I will say is wonderful. I've done a long trip in the car, which you'll see in the performance and handling section, and as I say, it was wonderful to use in terms of the clarity of the instrumentation and how simple it all is to use. But more so than that is the comfort. The comfort of the car is beyond reproach. I said it in the original Polestar video, and I'll say it again. The Swedish manufacturers still do, as far as I'm concerned, the best seats of any car maker out there. These are infinitely adjustable, and as I say, I know they're optional on this car with the Napa leather and the heating and the ventilation, but the range of adjustment is just phenomenal. Electronic adjustment of this under thigh bolster, you can adjust how the side bolsters grip you or not. There's lumbar support, the headrests are just in a right position. It just cosets you. It's like your mother cupping a baby, and it's like in her hands, it's just giving you the right support without pinching and making it feel uncomfortable. It's wonderful. It's a wonderful car to spend time in. Yes, the BMW 3 Series may be a more dynamic car for pin-sharp handling on a twisty country road, but I tell you, if you spend your day going up and down the M4 or the M5 or wherever, this is the car you want to be in terms of comfort. A good driving position, as I say, all the controls fall nice and easily to hand. There is a feeling of quality that you always get with Volvo. You know, the materials they use, there's some nice sort of like soft touch rubber on top of the dashboard, the plastics on the door, the leather itself. This console was a little bit creaky, but it's not, it doesn't creak when you're on the move. It's only if you start to, and you do feel it's maybe slightly kind of cheaper plastic. But otherwise, there's very little to fault here. One thing I will say that I really love is this glass or crystal, whatever it is, shift lever, and it's backlit at night. It's beautiful, gives a lovely ambience in the car as well. But let's see what the Polestar's like in comparison. So as I say, you can see the similarities in terms of the way the car and the controls are sort of laid out. Similar steering wheel, although Polestar use vegan leather. Now this car has a couple of options fitted to it. It has the Pilot Pack. Now that gives us adaptive cruise control, the pixel LED headlights that have a cornering adjustment on them, and there's a few more kind of driver aids, if you like, such as, I mean, there's the radar guided cruise control, obviously lane keep assist and such like as well, but also as a driver awareness monitor too. As well as that, as well as the Pilot Pack, it's got the Plus Pack, which gives it the big panoramic glass sunroof, heated steering wheel, heated rear seats, and this sort of different sort of like textured fabric, seat fabric, which I think is really, really nice actually. I really, really do like it. And slightly different, I think it's got a slightly different kind of wood grain in the centre with this satin kind of wood grain, which is really nice. It's a bit more plain than the Volvo, but that's a good thing, because then there's not as much to sort of like get used to. And as I say, when you step actually into the Polestar, as soon as you sit on the seat, if you've got the key with you, then it's actually ready just to drive off. There isn't a start button or anything. You just get in it, pull the shift lever back, and you're ready to drive off. No crystal shift lever in this. It's this sort of like weird kind of, I don't know, kind of diamond shaped one that's just nice and easy. They're dead easy to use, I have to say. And the minimalist controls continue, where in the Volvo you've got the volume control knob there. On here it's just at the front. Heated seats, heated screen, really similar steering wheel as the Volvo. All the controls are laid out nicely, and the driver's binnacle is simplicity itself. Now, I kept saying I loved the Tesla Model 3 in terms of its dashboard, and that had become so easy to use after a while. But I mentioned this in the original Polestar 2 video. If you haven't seen it, we'll pop a link up. I prefer this because it gives you the things that you want to see, such as the speed and range right in front of you. You don't have to take your eye off to the center screen, albeit, you know, not very much, but it's right there in front of you. If Tesla gave us a kind of head-up display, then they'd be on a par, but they don't. You've physically got to move your eyes across the center screen in the Model 3. Anyway, that's not what we're discussing. This gives you two different sort of layouts. You can have the cam view, which is very, very kind of minimalist looking, or you can take it to another view where you've got the navigation in the center of the screen as well with different readouts. But this is an actual Google operating system that the Polestar 2 runs on, and I find it just wonderful to use. I mean, I have an Android phone, so I use Google all the time pretty much for everything. So Google Maps is your navigation system. As I say, there's no Android Auto or Apple CarPlay, because you can log straight into your Spotify account from here. As I say, it uses Google Maps, so there's no problems with that. Like the Volvo, everything's sort of like touch screen, so it's nice and easy to use. So the heated seats, heated steering wheel are in there. The climate control system, you just press it, and then you obviously you swipe as to sort of like what you want. If you want big fan speed, or auto, or turn it off. You go back to your sort of like main tiles, and see you can download certain apps depending obviously on what you want as well. It has Google Assistant, which you can just sort of like say to it, "Hey Google, navigate me to Chertsey."
Navigating to Chertsey.
It's as simple as that. That, given how you're going to possibly use this car as a company car in terms of being connected and your connectivity, I mean, that is just simplicity itself. I mean, it's wonderful. I really like that. You also have a very, very easy menu system for the car to understand. So you can adjust various things on the car. So your brake regeneration, if you want it low, standard, or off, it's just there. Steering, you can adjust the feel, light, standard, or firm. You can switch the ESC, with your stability control off. Creep is off, so in other words, it can behave like an automatic. So when you're in drive, it will creep forward if you want. You just hold on the brake. Your driver assistance, it's all in here. I mean, the menu system itself is just nice, big, and bold, and really easy to get through and understand. There isn't loads of little sub menus that you've got to delve into to find all of this stuff. It's just really simple. I like it. And then more, you set up for interior lights, exterior lights, how the car locks and unlocks. I mean, it's like the Tesla. If you've used iPads or any kind of form of sort of like touchscreen tablet, I mean, you're just going to get on really well with this. I love the fit and finish of the car as well. It feels a little bit It feels a little bit more solid than the Volvo. This big centre console which rises up, I really like. And there's a feeling of solidity about the whole car. Not that the Volvo isn't. I mean, it does. As I say, it's one of the best built cars out there. But this just moves up in that little notch, if you like. There's a wireless charging pad here for your mobile. There's a couple of USB ports in there for your connectivity, your phone. There's storage. There's not as much as you get in the Tesla, in fairness. You've got a couple of cup holders, one there, one there. There's reasonably big door bins, and there's a little bit in the side there, side of the console, and a glove box. But there's not a huge amount of place to put your Whisper bars and your Murray Mints as you flip between clients. But, you know, other than that, there's little to fault in here. Now, normally in this section, this is where we compare and contrast the batteries of the two cars and their relative ranges, but we can't really do that because, well, this is petrol. So let's look at the Polestar 2. Now, this is the long-range single-motor car, which should give the biggest range of the Polestar range. It's a 78 kilowatt-hour battery, which should see about 336 miles according to WLTP figures. Reality, it's probably going to be a shade under 300 miles in fairness. We're filming this in November, and I haven't quite seen 300 miles out of the car yet. But anyway, you charge the car up via the port in the back, standard CCS charging, obviously, as we've become to expect these days, and it will take a 150 kilowatt rapid charge, meaning you can go from 10 to 80% in just over 30 minutes. Or if you want to put that in different type of measuring units, enough time for you to drink a latte and a cheese and ham toastie from Costa. From your 7 kilowatt wall box, you'll be taking a full charge, so flat to full, in 8 hours. But let's not ignore the Volvo, because as we've said, electric might not suit you, and you might not want to know about this. Now, the WLTP fuel economy for the Volvo, bearing in mind this is a mild hybrid, not a plug-in hybrid, so it doesn't use the electric power to drive the car at all. The electric motor in this car is there just to aid performance and efficiency. In other words, it drives constantly on the petrol engine. The WLTP figure for this car was 43 miles to the gallon. Now, I took this car on a long drive yesterday, which you'll see in a second in the performance and handling section, and I did just over 220 miles in the car and got 38.5 miles to the gallon, so it's fairly close to what you would expect for it, and that was all motorway work at, you know, 70-80 miles an hour on the motorway. So there you go, petrol car consumer advice from an electric car channel. Who'd have thought? Now, in a wonderful stroke of luck, these two cars have fallen with me on a week where I have to go to Birmingham twice. Not to exactly the same place, but close enough that will give us a good comparison between the two, because Birmingham from my house and back, well, that's a round trip of just over 200 miles, the sort of typical daily mileage that you might encounter as a company car driver. Now, it's not going to be an economy run, because we know that the Volvo will go there and back on a tank of fuel. Of course it will. The Polestar, well, it should do, but we're going to use the Volvo first. Now, today's trip is 212 miles, as I say, as a round trip, whereas Tuesday, when I go up, it's going to be a round trip of about 206 miles, and for that one, I'll use the Polestar. And also as well, in the way to make it very fair, we're not, as I say, going to use it as an economy run, trying to get the most out of the range. So we'll be driving at motorway speeds, I'll have my phone Bluetoothed in, I'll have the air conditioning on, or the heated seat on, I'll be listening to music. So it's going to be a direct comparison between the two. And let's see which one is the more relaxing car to do that sort of driving. So as I say, let's get on the road with the Volvo first. So, the Volvo S60, what do we have here? Well, mechanically, this is a 2-litre 4-cylinder turbocharged engine, producing a little bit more power than the Polestar does. It's 250 brake horsepower here, as opposed to the Polestar's 227. And that gives a 0 to 60 time of 6.5 seconds, which is half a second or thereabouts faster to 60 than the Polestar. Now, that's because obviously it's a little bit more powerful, and it's not quite as heavy as the Polestar either. This is a mild hybrid. You can also have the S60 as a plug-in hybrid. Now, let me quickly explain the differences there. A plug-in hybrid has a much bigger battery and a bigger electric motor, meaning that the car can actually drive on that electric motor for a short period of time. In the mild hybrid, it can't. It will always be running in terms of when you're driving. It will always be driving of the petrol engine. The battery and the motor is there purely to assist the engine in terms of performance and efficiency, but you can't switch it to electric power only, where it would then say drive into a city centre or something. It will always be on the petrol engine. If you want to know more about the differences between hybrids, plug-in hybrids and electric cars, we've done a video on those, and I will pop a link up in the description above. What's the S60 like? Well, it is a beautifully nice car. I mean, as I say, this is not a comparison test like we normally do, because as I say, we don't normally feature piston engine cars, but it would be churlish of us not to tell you what the car is actually like. So I'm telling you, it's really nice. It's not the last word in dynamics. If you're after pin sharp handling and an out and out sports saloon, then I'm going to suggest this probably isn't the car for you. But then the type of driving we'd expect the sort of like atypical company car driver to do tends to be exactly what I'm doing now, plying our trade up and down the motorways of Great Britain. And for that, this is exceptional. The comfort of the S60 is incredible, and that's not just in the seats, which are beautiful, by the way, support you in every single way possible, but also in terms of the way that the suspension's set up. It is a much more comfort orientated car. It's very refined as well. It's quite quiet. There's a little bit of road roar from it, from the tyres, but generally this has been a very pleasant motorway drive in the S60. Its steering is nice, its brakes are good, it has a nice weight to all of its controls. It's power wise, it's okay. When you put, that's the only thing I say about the engine. I mean, when you put your foot down, or when you can hear the engine a little bit more, or when the stop start sort of activates, that's when you hear the engine. When you're up at speed and when the engines get warmth through it, it's not as vocal as it is when it first starts, because you do notice it then, or as I say, you put your foot down, it kind of makes itself known. It's not coarse, but it's not exactly characterful. It's not like an Alfa Romeo 4-cylinder engine or a lovely BMW sort of like 6-cylinder. It's just a bit bland, really. But its power is good, and its power delivery is fairly linear thanks to that turbocharger. Now, it drives through this 8-speed automatic transmission, which again suits the car perfectly. There is a manual, you can change it manually if you wish by pulling the lever back and then flicking it left to right to change up and down, but that feels really odd to me, than moving a lever side to side to change up and down. So I don't really think you would ever use that. I think you're better off just leaving it in drive and letting the car just get on with it. You've also got different driving modes. You've got 4 different driving modes in the S60. You've got Eco. You can get these, by the way, by this little drive mode wheel here. Eco, which is set up to be more efficient, where it will upshift a lot quicker, get you into higher gear a lot quicker, so you've got better fuel economy. Maybe not rev so high before upshift. And then from there, you can scroll down to comfort, which is its sort of everyday use, which is pretty much what I've been driving the car in. Scroll down then to individual, where you can set up your own version, your own particular settings, what you prefer, or dynamic. And when you're in dynamic, everything sort of goes a little bit tighter, and say the gears are held longer up the revs before there's an upshift. As I say, it's not really a sports saloon, if I'm honest with you. I'm just leaving it in comfort, if I'm being brutally honest, and letting the car just sort itself out. So the Polestar 2, well, we've driven it before, and that was the dual motor, 402 brake horsepower, all singing, all dancing one with the performance pack. This is a single motor car, so it drives the front wheels and it puts 227 ponies through those wheels. This car's riding on the optional 20-inch wheels, but it doesn't have the performance pack. You can't put the performance pack on this car, and I have to say I'm none the worse for not having it, if I'm being honest with you. I'm never quite sure of why, and I said this before, you would need manually adjustable 20-way Öhlins dampers in that car. I just don't know why you'd want them. Anyway, you also do without the sort of the bigger piston brakes, but to be honest with you, the brakes feel really good in the car. There's a lot of feedback from the middle pedal, and you can adjust the regeneration as well, depending obviously on what you want. 0 to 60 in the car, well, it's pumping out 227 horses, as I say, and 0 to 60 takes 7 seconds, so it's half a second behind the S60, but it doesn't really feel it in some respects, because obviously you've got that lovely slug of torque that you get from electric cars, and to be honest with you, 0.5 of a second, would you really notice it? Not sure you do. I'd rather trade that for the slightly smoother drive that the Polestar gives, that slightly more linear acceleration and the less intrusive engine noise from when it's, as I say, when the S60, when you start it and you drive it and you kick, you sort of like ask it to sort of like perform, that's when it makes itself known, whereas obviously in the Polestar you don't have that. It just picks up speed and goes, there's no noise. Now, there is a little bit of a ride trade-off between the two cars, but again, as I say, it might just be down to the 20-inch wheels. It's not uncomfortable. That's not what I'm saying. In fact, actually, in fairness, it's not really the ride that's the problem. It's just the sort of like the pitter-patter over broken surfaces, expansion joints, and the like that you get with these 20-inch alloy wheels. They do make themselves known, I have to say, and that's one difference between the Volvo and the Polestar. There's just a bit more noticeable interaction with the road surface that you get in the Polestar that's not there in the Volvo. In terms of the driving position, well, it's pretty much the same. As I say, it's a very, very similar style of seat. It holds you very well. You've got a very nice driving position. I've got a good steering, good grip of the steering wheel in front of me, and everything just feels really, really nice. You do sit higher. That's the one thing that you notice, that slightly raised ride height in the Polestar, and obviously the batteries are underneath the car, so you do feel that you're sitting a bit more on the car rather than in it. But it's no different to sort of like anything else that's available for the money in terms of EVs. But in terms of the actual drive of the car, I really like this car. I think it's a real shining star, if you'll pardon the pun with the Polestar, because that's what it is, a Polestar. But I do think this is a real shining star in the marketplace, and I really, really do think that it answers an awful lot of questions that the Model 3 Tesla just can't these days, in terms of its refinement. As I say, I'm getting a bit bored with the whole Tesla traffic light Grand Prix thing. I've said it before, I'll say it again. I just think when you take that away from it, what are you left with? Well, a bit of a bland car, if I'm honest with you. The Polestar isn't that. The Polestar isn't a bland car. It's a really nice car to drive. It's relaxing, it's comfortable, it performs perfectly adequate for what you'd need a car like this to do. And I just think the whole car just feels really well engineered. It really does. I think this is and again, I think this could be the pick of the Polestar range. I'm not sure I would really miss that 400 brake horsepower if I was just driving up and down, the motorway to my next appointment. So good morning, it's Tuesday morning. Excuse me, I don't have the microphone attached, and I'm doing this just off the front facing camera on my phone, just so I can get underway and let you see. So as I say, the other day we drove the Volvo S60 to Birmingham and back, and see how we got on with that. And this morning I've got a trip to Solihull planned to see a new electric car, which is coming to another video soon on AutoEV. But I charged the Polestar up last night, and it's showing 100% battery level, but a range of 270 miles. Let me just flip the camera around so you can see that. There you go there, that's on the dashboard. But you'll also notice 2 degrees. So it is very, very cold this morning. Well, it is if you live in England. If you're a Scotsman like me, you'd say it's getting a wee bit on the warm side. Anyway, what I love about the Polestar as well is The address that I'm going to, I looked up last night on Google on my phone. And actually, I've got in the Polestar this morning, because it's obviously a link to my Google account. There it was, again. So there you go. It's showing me. It's already, as soon as I started in and put the Google on, it shows exactly where I'm going. So there's the time and distance to go. It's saying I should arrive there at 9:10, and it's calculating that I should have 52% battery left by the time I get there. So again, from a point of view, obviously, of a if this is your business car, then that makes an awful lot of sense, and it's a really good way. The connectivity of cars these days is so that, I mean, it's just phenomenal. But that I find really, really handy. So you know exactly when you're going to be there. You know exactly when you're, for your appointment. You know exactly how much battery you're going to have left too. So let's get underway. I'll see you later. Arrived at my destination in Solihull. It's a little bit foggier up here than it was when I left home, and the car has the range showing now is it's left is 49%, so it's done half its battery, with 130 miles still to go. So I could get back, all things being equal, I could get back on that, because it's just over 100 miles. We'll see how it goes when I set off later. But obviously disappointing, you know, that's going to be 200 and, what's that, 240, just under 240 miles it's done on the full charge, as long as it will actually do the same on the way up. But in fairness as well, it is a cold day. It's a very cold day, although the temperature's risen up here to 10 degrees. I left it when it was 2 degrees. I've had the air conditioning on, I've had Bluetooth on. I've been listening to podcasts, so using the Bluetooth system and everything. So I could have done more if it was an economy run, but I didn't want to do that. I wanted to do this like it was an actual, you'd actually use the car. So anyway, I'm off to do a little bit of filming now, and I'll catch you later. So interestingly, didn't quite make it home in terms of I had to stop and charge before I got back. Wasn't far off, in fairness. I was probably about, I'd have been about 10 miles short, or just a bit too much to chance. So I stopped at the bottom of the M40 at the Beaconsfield services, where I'm using the new Ionity chargers, which are a very fast charger. They deliver 350 kilowatts of power. Although at the moment, the Polestar only take 150 kilowatts of charge, but it's taking, at the moment, it's drawing 140 kilowatts in, so it's quite a quick charge. And I know it's more expensive going Ionity, but remember with Polestar, you do a thing called plug surf, I think it's called, a plug share, where you get like a discounted rate for things like Ionity when you sign up for it. So yeah, as I say, slightly disappointing in the sense that the car couldn't go there and back. So although it's supposed to do 336 miles, it's struggled to do 220. But as I say, it has been a cold day today, and I've been on the motorway, and I've had the cruise control set at 75 miles an hour all the way, using the Bluetooth, listening to podcasts. So it's certainly eating into the battery, but it means I can stop and have a little bit of lunch, which is exactly what I'm doing now. So during your day as a out and about on the road, that's exactly what you would do. You'd stop somewhere, plug in, and have a little bit of lunch. Only downside was, when I first pulled in, there was some of the grid serve ones. There's 3 people waiting for the grid serve ones. So it does, if anything, the downside, and we have to be fair, we are talking about there are advantages and disadvantages of electric company cars. The downsides are the net with infrastructure, depending obviously where you are in the country. It's there, but you might not get immediate access to those chargers. So there we go. As I say, it's been an interesting day, and yeah, anyway, let's get on with the video. Now this is where things get interesting and, well, a little bit complicated, so forgive me for having these figures written down. Now, as I said at the beginning, please remember, we are not tax advisors. If you want to get exact figures on what will be applicable to you as an employee with a company car, then as I say, we do advise that you speak to your payroll department or your own personal accountant. But these are very interesting figures, so let's go through them. Now, bearing also in mind, this is what applies to the UK tax situation from HMRC at time of filming. Now, as we see the sort of like the balance shift maybe from internal combustion towards electric mobility, they might change, because obviously something's going to have to pay to keep the lights on in the HMRC building. So now is probably the time to take advantage of this. But anyway, let's get on to the figures. Now, the two cars that we've chosen are very, very similar in specification and price. So the Volvo, which is a B5 inscription model with the mild hybrid, it's not the plug-in hybrid, that's different. Bear that in mind. This range starts at £41,000. The car we have here is optioned up to just over £48,000. And of course, these prices are also correct at time of filming, so please do bear that in mind. The Polestar, now that comes in at, well, that's just around the £43,000 before any options, and this car we have is optioned up to the £52,000. Now, the two tax brackets that you have in the UK, if you're a 20% taxpayer, for the Volvo you would pay £3,554 per annum. If you were in the more likely 40% tax bracket, that rises to £7,108 per annum. And also keep in mind that if you've got a fuel card from your company, then that's also a taxable benefit. Now let's look at the Polestar in comparison, because it's a pure electric vehicle and the UK government look on those very, very favourably. If you're a 20% taxpayer, you'd pay £101 a year, not a month, a year. And if you were a 40% taxpayer, that would go up to just £203 a year. That's a massive difference. So you can see already that there's a huge amount to be saved by you going electric as your company car. Now, there are other benefits as well, because also if your employer also provides you with a home wall box, then that's not seen as a taxable benefit. And then if they have charging points at your office, for instance, if you were charging the car there, that's not seen as a taxable benefit, because the HMRC don't see electricity as fuel. So there you go. Now, as I say, please, 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 I can't emphasize this enough. Make sure that you check out through your own payroll department or your own accountant. But there are also a couple of really good websites where you can put, use them as calculators for your new company car tax. But all of a sudden, going electric, not only does it make sense for the environment, but it makes sense where it really affects you, your pocket. Now, in terms of what you see as competition for these cars will depend on how you see the Polestar fitting into the market sector. If you do see it, as we do, as a small, compact executive sports saloon, then obviously it's the Tesla Model 3 by going full electric that you're going to naturally compare it to. But bear in mind, BMW are also about to launch the i4, which is a sort of EV equivalent of their 4 Series Grand Coupe. Now, initially that car is going to be a little bit more expensive than this, but that's not to say that more sort of like less expensive versions don't eke into the market at some time in the future. And we know how good BMW's electric product is, so it will be a natural competitor for this. But as I say, that £40,000 to £50,000 bracket, the clear sort of like sectors have been a little bit muddied now, because obviously you've got sort of these compact crossovers such as the Hyundai Ioniq 5, the Kia EV6, Mercedes-Benz GLA, a car that we absolutely love, as well as other things such as the Audi Q4 e-tron and Skoda Enyaq. They're all worthy of your consideration, and of course, being full EVs will all benefit from that very, very low company car tax. The S60 is a little bit easier to pigeonhole, because obviously it's a compact sports saloon that we've been used to middle management driving up and down the motorway. So BMW 3 Series, Audi A4 and Mercedes-Benz C-Class, to name but a few. So rather than discuss the pros and cons of each individual car, let's discuss the advantages and disadvantages of going electric for your new company wheels. The advantages are the low taxation, sustainability, the image it will portray to your clients, and your own conscience. The disadvantages are range will still be a limiting factor. time that you will have to spend at charging stations if you are a high mileage user. And depending obviously on the type of car you want, there is a limited choice in some sectors, such as this, the compact sports executive saloon. Now, your advantages with sticking with an internal combustion engine are, it's a known quantity. The refueling time is much less. You have more choice depending on the sector of the market you're looking at, and there's not really the range anxiety. The disadvantages, however, are their taxable benefits. It's not as socially acceptable these days. It's arguably not as smooth to drive, and even a hybrid still feels like a compromise. Now, as I say, I know this hasn't been a conventional twin test from us here at AutoEV, but we thought this was an important video to do. So therefore, maybe it's a bit unfair to try and draw a comparable winner between these two cars, which are, after all, very, very different, despite being very, very similar. But on saying that, let's just talk about the S60 for a little while, because I genuinely have loved having this car. And if electricity going forward isn't for you, you need to look at one of these as your next company car, because it's a more complete car in some respects than ubiquitous BMW 3 Series, Audi A4 and Mercedes-Benz C-Class. It's certainly a more stylish and more comfortable one. In fact, my mother, who was in the car last week, said it's probably one of the most comfortable cars she's ever been in. A ringing endorsement there, if ever there was. So yes, it is certainly worthy of your consideration. However, that's not what we've been here to do. We've not really been testing the S60. What we wanted to do was to see whether or not going electric can be done as a company car user. And I think, or I hope, we've shown that it can be. But it's also been a little bit of a subliminal road test of this, the Polestar 2 single motor long range. Now, we've driven the performance dual motor one before, and we absolutely love it. In fact, I said it was a better car than Tesla Model 3. I still stand by that. In fact, I think this car could be the pick of the Polestar range, in all fairness, because it's pretty good value for money. It drives better than the Tesla equivalent, it's better engineered, it's more comfortable, and dare I say, it's a damn sight better looking. But in terms of you as a company car driver, should you now go electric, well, take advantage of it whilst you can, because as I say, as the shift moves between petrol power and electric power, HMRC are going to cotton on to the fact that you are financially much better off going electric. And as that shifts towards the 2030 cut-off for internal combustion engines, they're not going to let that happen for too long. Now's the time, folks. Now's the time. Thank you for watching AutoEV. As always, please remember to like and subscribe to the videos and channel. And if you haven't done so, press that little bell button down below to receive notification of when our next video goes live. As always, remember, we're on all social media, Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, all of that. So if you're a business user, we are on LinkedIn as well. And of course, have you been to autoev.co.uk? You haven't? Get there now. The video's over. Go there now, because you will be able to feast on our past road test videos. But until next time, thanks for watching. We'll see you soon. So, you've watched our video. It's now my job to tell you to like and subscribe, and press the little bell button to receive notification of when our next video is uploaded.